It's so good to have you today. If we haven't met yet, my name's Nate, and I say this a lot, but it's an honor, privilege to serve as the lead pastor, and grateful to have you. Whether you're live in the room or maybe you're watching online, a big welcome to our extended LifePoint family, and those that are in overflow and additional seating, thanks so much for being here. So let's just welcome everybody in today. It's part of our custom. We see you, we notice you, we're grateful to have you. And I'll tell you what's really neat, and Ridge was hitting on this a little bit. The month of July, historically, it's the largest first-time guest month out of the entire year. So we're going to see more first-time guests in the month of July than any other single month out of the year, and this past July proved to be the same. Just for perspective, we saw 194 first-time guests just in the month of July, y'all. That's amazing. And here's why I tell you this. I read, I'm kind of a church world nerd, and I read this article in The Atlantic, came out 2 weeks ago. It said that 40 million Americans have left the church. 40 million. Now, this isn't like overnight. This has been a slow trickle. COVID certainly sped that up. For perspective, that's 12% of the U.S. population has said, I no longer want anything to do with church, Jesus, organized religion. That is now the largest concentrated church decline in American history. Why do I say this? Because what God's doing here, this is not normal. Hey, we can't treat this like this is common. We got to go all in for this. We got to give to this. We got to serve to this. We got to pray for this. If God is going to actually use us on this small little dot on the globe to make an impact for the kingdom of God, then we got to say, God, use me. I'm all in. I believe that our greatest days are ahead of us as a church. Do you believe that today? Man, I believe it. I do. I got the faith today. So this is amazing, and I'm glad you're here. So let's grab our Bibles, and let's meet up in the Old Testament. If you got a Bible, let's grab it and go to the book Song of Solomon. If you got a Bible, wave it up in the air like you just do care. Okay, digital counts. I see you back there. Song of Solomon, we're starting part 2, episode 2 of a 5-part collection of messages called The Art of Romance. And one of the things that I love about the Song of Solomon is that it will remind you that love will make you do crazy things. Doesn't it? You ever done something and you're like, oh my goodness, in my right mind, I never would have done this? Come on, wave at me if love's ever made you just do something uncharacteristic of you. Yeah, you're like, I went to a WWE wrestling match and sat in the front row and painted my face. And I told them I liked it. They're like, I gave up a perfectly great Saturday and went to the botanical garden at the I didn't even know the word botanical was in the English vernacular. That's love. Love will make you do crazy things. So 2 weeks ago, my wife and I, Emily, we celebrated 17 years of marriage. 17 years, amazing. And for our anniversary, our kids got us a professional photo shoot. So here's a photo right here in the cornfields of Illinois. And by professional, I mean they took our phone and they took the photos. Which I know you're like, oh, that's so sweet. No, they're cheap. They're cheap. That's what that is right there. But no, they did a great job. We had a ton of fun with it 17 years ago. And so we were out to dinner celebrating. And we're just kind of thinking back, 17 years. And we had this memory. We met at Johnson Bible College in Knoxville, Tennessee. Both went to Bible college together, met there. It's Johnson University now. In January of that winter-spring semester. So we started dating, and immediately spring break, April, was just a few months away. So Emily, for spring break, goes to Haiti on a mission trip. I also went on a mission trip for my spring break to South Beach, Miami, Florida. Why you judge? Yeah, there we go. Hey, suntan lotion ministry is a real thing. And I said, Lord, send me wherever you go, I'll follow. I'm a vessel, Lord. And no, you can tell who's the more spiritual one. Emily went on a real mission trip serving the widows and orphans, and I went with my friends on a traditional spring break. And now the problem with this was that the whole time I was there, I was miserable because I was just thinking about her. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to see her again. I'm in sunny South Florida, and I just wanted to be with her. So I decided, this is what love does. I decided that I'm going to leave 3 days early. I'm going to drive 14 hours, 877 miles by myself to Knoxville, Tennessee, to the airport to surprise her when she landed and got off the plane, only to spend less than 24 hours with her before she had to leave again to go visit her family. But that's what love does. And I remember when I told my friends that I was going to leave early, they looked at me like I was crazy. Love will make you do crazy things. And so there I am at dinner 17 years later, and I was convicted, church, because the conviction came and I started to ask myself, when was the last time I actually allowed love to cause me to do something crazy? Or has my marriage become so familiar that I just take Emily for granted? So I need to ask you, when was the last time you allowed love to cause you to do something crazy? I don't know what it is about romance, but romance, it's something that we all desire, connection, intimacy, and yet once we get it, it's hard to keep. And Solomon's like, not if I have anything to do about it. So I've tucked away in the inspired canonization of the Word of God an entire book dedicated to sex. Some of y'all are like, I need to read my Bible. Yeah, you do. It's often called the most erotic book in the entire Bible, the Song of Solomon. Because what Solomon is asking us through poetry is, how's your love life? Married couples, is your wedding bed dead or is it alive? Single adults, are you trying to awaken desire and passion too soon? And Solomon, through God's word, is trying to give you and I back one of the greatest gifts that God has ever created for his glory and for our well-being and enjoyment, the gift of sex. Look, here's how I say it. God, when it comes to sex, God created it. Culture has corrupted it, and it's time for the church to redeem it. Look, I just believe that Christian married couples should be having the best sex lives out of anybody. A Christian couple should be having the best. There it is. Second time, online. You're like, yeah, I just don't know if I should say that. And if you won't disciple, listen, parents, if you won't disciple your kids in sex and sexuality, the world is right outside your door waiting to do it. And as I look around and I look at my kids, the world's doing a pretty good job. How's your love life? Song of Solomon. In the title, it's what's called a Hebrew idiom. Can I teach for a moment? It's a Hebrew idiom. When you see a repetition of words, Hebrew doesn't use exclamation points like we do, so it repeats words to emphasize something. So what Solomon is saying is that this is my greatest song. Out of the 1,005 songs that I've written in Proverbs, this is my greatest hit. This is Lionel Richie's All Night Long. Like, this is Dolly Parton's Made Famous by Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. This is Shakira's Hips Don't Lie. I've gone too far? Okay, yeah. He's like, out of all the songs that I've ever wrote, this one is the song above all songs. Now, I love songs. I do. I love all different styles, all different genres. But I would say, hands down, country music has the weirdest love song lyrics. Like R&B, no doubt, okay? My Instagram poll was wrong if you followed that. R&B has the greatest love song lyrics ever, but country music has the weird ones. Like country music, it has lyrics that I'm pretty sure no one else could get away with unless you're a country artist. Here's a love song. This is a real lyric from a real song. Get your tongue out of my mouth because I'm kissing you goodbye. That's savage, y'all. That's another level. I mean, Casey and JoJo, much more elegant than that. I mean, here's a final one. I love this one. Wayne Carter, a long time ago. My wife ran off with my best friend, and I really miss him. You know, love songs, they have inspired us for centuries. And although styles and music has come and gone, what these lyrical love poets are really communicating to us is this timeless truth that when it comes to romance, words matter. Like, if you want to have a romantic, healthy marriage and dating life, what you speak will give life, maybe more than anything else. And today, as we go back into the psalm and we watch this dating couple, last week we started with the art of attraction. We're going to watch the two of them speak to each other, and what they say gives life. So if you take notes, I encourage you to do this. I want to talk to you from this thought right here, the art of pursuit. The art of pursuit. Here's the big idea for the series. We've said that romance, it's not a science that you perfect. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It's scientific. No. It's an art that you develop, and you never stop developing it. And today, we're going to watch this couple pursue one another dominantly through their words. So we're going to start Song of Solomon chapter 1, verse 5 with the woman's self-perception. So listen to the words that she speaks over her life. She says this in verse 5, dark am I, yet lovely. Daughters of Jerusalem represent her friends that are virgins. She says, dark like the tent of Kedar, like the 10 curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I'm dark. Because I'm dark, I've been darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I've had to neglect. And then jump down to chapter 2, verse 1. She says, I'm a rose of Sharon. I'm a lily of the valley. Now, in order to understand this, we got to know Hebrew context. And so these are overall very negative self-reviews. They're very negative self-reviews, mainly in two forms. One is of her body, ladies lean in, and the other is of her being. So listen again now what she says about her body. Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem. Dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Don't stare at me, don't look at me because I'm dark. Because I'm darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me, and they made me take care of the vineyards, and yet my own vineyard I've had to neglect. Now, this is basically Disney's Cinderella story. Just think about it. I don't know if Walt Disney got his inspiration from Song of Solomon, but maybe he was a Bible reader, because this is exactly how Cinderella plays out. You got this young, beautiful girl who's attractive, who's forced to work out in the hot vineyards in the fields by her two angry brothers. And we don't know why they're angry. The text doesn't tell us. I don't know if maybe mom showed favoritism. I actually think it's probably because they weren't full DNA brothers and sisters, so she looked different. Maybe a little bit of jealousy was in on that. Same mom, different fathers. But regardless, in the midst of this hard life that she's living, she gives us self-perception. She's like, when I look into the mirror, what I see is a woman who's just worn out. My skin is dark. Don't stare at me. The sun has worn out my skin. Now, you have to understand, this is not a racist comment. She's not saying dark or black is bad. No, this is a Israelite Middle Eastern woman. So what she's really telling us is that my already tan, a Mediterranean skin is even that much darker. Which I know, ladies, you're like, hold up, you mean this sister is complaining that she's too tan? Right, because for us, like if you have light skin, you typically want it to be darker. It's why in the summertime you'll put SPF 100 on your kids, and you'll put oil on you, and you'll lay by the pool. You'll go to the beach, because in our culture, if you want to get tan, and it's really funny though when you study beauty over different decades and centuries. Like if you just go back 500 years, every 150 years or so has what the culture would say is its reasons for beauty. Like today, you might say for a woman, beauty in our culture, I'm talking very general, a woman who's lean or muscular, nice body, dark skin, tan. You might say a guy that's tall, broad shoulders, beards, facial hair is really in. And we kind of even see the shift happening. Like now it's not just the beard, it's the mustache. Somehow we're okay with this. We got like the mustache is back and hair's flowing like the mullet. I know. And you're like, watch out, you kind of have something going on there. Don't judge me. Anyways, and now I even see it shifting in the younger generation. Like last week, I'm sitting in the barber chair, I'm getting my haircut, my Pat Mahomes haircut, and the 16-year-old, listen, he's like 16, he's sitting right next to me. His back-to-school haircut was a perm. A boy getting a perm. And I had to go fact check with my 13-year-old son. He's like, yeah, Dad, it's like what the boys are doing now. It's the big, poofy, curly hair. The point is, every culture has its reasons for what it considers beauty. Now, this is far removed from, say, a European Renaissance a couple hundred years ago. When you look at European Renaissance paintings of women, beauty was pale and plump, right? Like that's what this woman would have been going for. She actually would have been going more for the pale, plump look. Why? Because that's a sign of royalty. It's a sign of privilege. Matter of fact, the leaner and muscular and tan you were meant that you were lower working class peasant. So she's basically saying, I'm not a beautiful woman. There's just not much to look at here. I've been forced to work out into the vineyards and the fields, which according to Isaiah chapter 5, verse 2, included digging ditches, building watchtowers, protecting from wild animals. Like I have helped everybody else's vineyard, and yet I've neglected my own. Now, when you read Song of Solomon, the setting is in the springtime. It's why there's a lot of garden imagery. which actually makes sense. When you think about passion, you think about sex and romance. Spring is a great analogy, right? The grass is green, the flowers are budding, the fruit is hanging on the vine. And she says, yet in the midst of what should be my spring, I've neglected my own attractiveness. AKA, I desperately need a mani-pedi. I gotta do something with this skin. I'm telling you right now, this hair, I gotta get my hair done. I haven't shaved my legs all winter. I'm telling you, I've been driving these kids around. I've been working this job. I've been managing this house. I've been cooking these meals. And if one more person asks one more thing of me, I'm about to go off on somebody because while I'm taking care of everybody else's needs, I've neglected my own vineyard. And ladies, I think you know what she's talking about. Like she desperately needs a ladies' day out. Somebody get her a Valentine resort spa gift card. Take her to the Beyonce concert. Give her a reason to get dressed. Like, she's like, I don't really look that good. Now, ladies, the poem at certain moments in men is gonna pause us to ask us a question. So before we move on, ladies, I would ask you, what is your self-perception? When you look into the mirror, what do you see? Do you focus on all your blemishes and the way that your body is aging? Because often you see that which you speak. So if all you do is speak negative over your life, that's all you're going to see. And moms that are raising teenagers, moms, listen, you gotta be very careful with what you speak about your body because your little girl is developing beauty and self-image dominantly based off of what you say. So how's your self-perception? Now that's negative, but I think her being, the negative talk about her identity is even worse. Look as the text continues to go on. When she says in verse 1 of chapter 2, I'm a rose of Sharon, I'm a lily of the valleys. Now that sounds nice. And she knows she's beautiful. I mean, in verse 5, she calls herself beauty and lovely. But a Sharon, a lily of the valley is a common flower. So this is her self-assessment. I'm worn out, I'm exhausted, I've had to do all this manual labor, my skin has been worn by the sun, don't stare at me. I know that I'm pretty common. All I am is like a wildflower on the side of a country road. There's a million of me. I'm not worth anything special. Now what's amazing about this is now the man comes along, and I want you to see what his self-perception is of her, and then watch what it does to her confidence as he speaks what he sees over her life. It says this in verse 9, he goes, I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. We will make you earrings of gold studded with silver. And then in verse 2, he combats her lily of the valley comment. He says, like a lily among thorns is my darling among the young women. Like his self-perception of her is, girl, what you talking about? Talking about average, talking about common, talking about don't stare at me. Girl, you are beautiful. Wow. As one theologian so elegantly says it, oh, her eyes make the stars look like they're not shining. She got it real quick. Her hair falls perfectly without you trying. She's so beautiful, I tell her every day. Yeah, I know. When I compliment her, she won't believe me. And it is so sad to think that she doesn't see what I see. But every time she asks me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, there's not a thing, come on, Life Point Choir, that I would change. Cause you're just the, come on, Life Point Choir, give yourselves a hand. You're signed up for the worship team. He's like, girl, if you could just see what I see, you would think different. You would walk different. You would believe different. You would view yourself differently. And you know what he's doing? Don't miss this. He is inviting her to see herself through his eyes. In marriage, we often see ourselves through the eyes of our spouse. I'm gonna say that again. In a marriage, you often see your worth and self-esteem through the eyes of your spouse. No one's voice has the impact like the voice of the one that you love. It's why the two most important voices in your life, outside of the Word of God and God's voice, is what you speak and what the one that you love speaks. This is why single adults, if you're single, listen. I know you're attracted to their image. That's great. That's infatuation. That's attraction. That's what initially is going to get. And that's amazing. Dude, I know you love her body. And you're like, wow, yeah, okay. And I know you look at him and you're like, he's got the dimples, the Mario Lopez. He's got the jawline. Just know that one day, okay, the jawline, it's going to turn into a gobbler. And you're not gonna know like when the transition happened, but you're gonna look at him and go, is it Thanksgiving every day? Like you're like, and gentlemen, like the body is, John Mayer was right, okay? Gravity always brings me down. Okay, like you can Botox it, tummy tuck it, you can flip, whatever. But at the end of the day, Mother Nature always wins. And so it's great. But what's most important when you're dating is the words that they speak. Cover your eyes for a second and open up your ears. What do they say? How do they talk to you? Think about it. They're on their best behavior when you're dating. And typically how they speak to you is only going to get magnified when you get married. How does he speak to his mom? How does she gossip? What's their tone like when they say certain things? He's trying to get us to see the power of our words, because your words in the context of a relationship have the ability to pull heaven down or to bring hell up. And I don't know about you, but I want a heaven down marriage. When you walk out your front door, people are pulling up hell all around you. Your front door to your marriage should be a sanctuary, safe enough to risk loving, safe enough to be vulnerable, safe enough to be the person that God's created you to be. I want a heaven down kind of marriage. So if we're going to do this, if that's ultimately what I think you want as well, then let me show you two choices that they make in the text here that I think will show us how to pursue one another. Here's the first choice that they make. It's compliment, not criticize. So again, as you're pursuing one another, and married couples, you never stop pursuing one another. Compliment, not criticize. Look, I'm gonna tell you, I'm 17 years into the game. Some of you got 20 years on me and some even more. If you're looking for something to criticize, it's easy to find. It's everywhere. And the longer you're married, the easier it can be. The real question is, can you actually compliment? Compliments are like deposits. Criticisms are like withdrawals. So the way that you bankrupt the marriage is by withdrawing more than you're depositing. And so I love the fact that right here in the text, it lays it out. He compliments her beauty in three ways. Men, lean in on this. The first is he compliments her beauty and strength. Look back at the text. Verse 9, he says, I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Don't worry, guys, I'll explain that. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. We will make you earrings of gold studded with silver. Okay, men, this is one of those don't use the Bible as a pickup line moments, okay? Because if you look at your lady today and you're like, babe, have I ever told you that your face reminds me of a horse? That when you trot, you run like a Clydesdale. Your disheveled hair flows like the mare of a Kiger Mustang. All right, like it's not like you're gonna end on the couch. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? Don't use the Bible for this. This is 10th century BC. So it's just different. But here's what you know, and here's what I still know to be true. If you ever stand next to a horse, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous, they're strong, they're intimidating, they're elegant, they're grace-filled. That's what he's saying. He's like, you have so much strength in you that you don't even see, but I can see it. He's removing her from the vineyard and he's placing her in his palace as his queen. And then he goes on and he talks about your neck should have jewels in your cheeks. And what he's describing, a mare of a Pharaoh's horse in ancient Egypt would have looked something like this right here. So the mares had these elaborate head dressings and the horses had diamonds and jewels and rubies and all the fine stuff. And he's looking at her and he goes, baby, you're not just beauty, you're royalty. This dude is a smooth talker. Somebody taught this boy right. He is complimenting strength and beauty. Here's the second thing he's complimenting her, beauty in innocence. That's what he means when he says, verse 15, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful your eyes, listen to the imagery, are like doves. So in the Bible, a dove represents purity, represents innocence. That's why Matthew chapter 10, Jesus says in verse 16, he says, be wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove. So he's speaking to her innocence because she's still a virgin. She doesn't flaunt her body. She dresses very modestly, which I know, ladies, this goes against everything that you're constantly inundated in culture today. Because every marketing media channel is telling you sex sells. You want a man? You got to show off your body. So guess what? Shorts get shorter, shirts get tighter, bathing suits get smaller. If you want to have sex, just have it, because at the end of the day, it's just sex. Test drive the car before you commit to buy it. What's the big deal? And yet here we are. The timeless, matchless word of God says no. You are not an object of sex. That is not your intrinsic value, and that is not the best bait that you can try to put on a hook to lure a guy in. You are his daughter. You are a prized possession. You are the crown jewel of creation, for you are the only one that was not created from the dust of the ground. That's who you are, child of God. Yeah, that's who you are. And I know this is hard to believe. I know this is hard to believe, ladies that are single, but there still are great, godly, single Christian men out there. They're out there. Men who are handsome, love Jesus, take on responsibility, have a job, honor women, love their moms, but you're not going to attract them using the world's bait. And there isn't a woman in here that wouldn't say, man, I want to be married to a guy. I want a guy like that to lead my family. And so you've got to realize that he's attracted to her innocence. He's like, your Instagram like photos are just different. There's an innocence that I love about you. He's complimenting her strength, her beauty and innocence. And look at the final one here. He's complimenting beauty and priority. He says in chapter 2, verse 2, like a lily among thorns is my darling among the young men. He says, you are my standard of beauty. He's like, you're not just the best looking, you are the only one worth looking. He is his standard, she is his standard of beauty. So let's talk about this. Married couples, let me talk to you now. If you're with your spouse, or even if you're dating, we can do this. Go ahead and just look at your spouse. Go ahead and look at them, okay? Give them the eye roll, look all the way down, all the way up, okay? Guess what? What you just saw, that's your standard of beauty. Congratulations. Why are you laughing? Ouch. You're like, don't laugh, babe, right? Well, here's what this means. It means that if you're like married and you're in your 20s and you still have high metabolism, God bless you, and you sleep 8 hours a night because you don't have kids and you both have jobs and you got dual incomes and you work out 5 days a week, that's great. That's your standard of beauty. But just know that there will be a day when you will turn 40 and you will have 3 kids, 1 natural, 2 C-section, and you will move 5 times and you will have 2 surgeries and you will go from banking 8 hours of sleep to thank God I got 5 hours of sleep. From a full head of hair, I'm just grateful that I got some hair. From a 6-pack to a 6-gallon. From a well-rested face to why do I have these bags underneath my eyes? And guess what? That's your standard of beauty. Not the 20-year-old version of your spouse, but who they are today. Look, I'm telling you, my wife, she is more beautiful today, 17 years in, than the day that I married her. And I think every spouse should feel the same way about the one that they married. Beauty is not an image. Beauty is not a body type. Beauty is not a magazine. Beauty is the one that you said, till death do us part. That's your standard. He says, you're not only worth looking, you're the only one that I would even consider looking at. So I ask you, how's your marriage bank? Do you compliment more than you criticize? And I think it's great, marriages especially, to compliment work ethic and cooking and accomplishments. That's great. But when was the last time you complimented their physical beauty? Like, it's good once in a while to give your spouse a comment that makes the kids blush. That's a good thing. Fill that marriage bank up. Here's the second decision that they do. They choose affirmation, not assumption. So in this art of pursuit, you have to give affirmation, not assumption. Don't assume that they know you love them. Tell them. Ladies, don't assume he knows he's valuable. Men need to know that they have value in the home. Don't assume, sir, that she thinks you know that she's beautiful. You need to tell her that she's beautiful. It's what I love about the text, that the woman, after all these compliments that the man just showered her with, she doesn't just assume, he knows how I feel. She tells him, look at chapter 2, verse 3. She says, like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. That means what you think it is. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. She says, you are my tree. I love this because when she returns the favor of affirmation, she doesn't use feminine analogies. She doesn't call them flowers and lilies. She uses masculinity. Babe, you're a tree amongst the forest. You are a strong man. And I'm telling you what, ladies, you want your husband to do something, tell him you're a strong man. Get him to do anything. And then, men, she gives him, this is my opinion, the greatest compliment a wife could ever give, which they're not married yet, but a woman could ever give to a man. She says, when I'm with you, I feel safe. How do we know this? Because she said, your banner over me is love. That's a military term. In ancient military, soldiers would often get scattered and disoriented, separated. So your army would raise up a banner in the air or a flag so that no matter where you were on the field, all you had to do was look back and you would see your army banner and go, that's home, that's safety, that's refuge. And so she looks at him and she says, the way you love me, it makes me feel safe. Men, in order for your woman to feel free, she has to first feel safe. You want her to be free in her emotions. You want her to trust you with her thoughts, free in her body. She has to first feel safe. So I ask you, this is a gut check for a guy. Is your love over your spouse, especially if you're married, is it a banner of love where when she feels disoriented in life and thoughts and anxiety and different things are hitting her, all she's got to do is look to you. That's my man. That's my safety. That's my strong tower right there. Is your banner over her love? And if you don't know, I encourage you, ask her tonight. And ladies, if your man has the courage to actually ask you, do you feel safe with me? Be gentle, but be honest. And watch the romance begin to shift even through these difficult conversations. Now, at this point in the love story, you could be thinking to yourself, this is great, but come on, man, this is a fairy tale. Like, really, this is not 2023. I mean, they're dating, they're attracted to one another, everything's going great, they're complimenting each other, you know. If that's what you think, keep reading. Next Sunday, we're gonna see the wedding and the honeymoon, but they almost didn't make it there. Matter of fact, if you keep reading, there's something that is actually robbing them of their love. Let's end with that today. Look at chapter 2, verse 15. He says this, catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. He's saying a fox has gotten into our love and it's literally eating it's ruining our relationship. He's like, I don't know what happened. Like everything was going great. We were dating. She was laughing at my jokes. He was patient when I'm late. I mean, we loved each other. We had romance. And then we just let our guard down. We got busy. He said something. She did something. I didn't tell him. I slipped it under the rug. Passive aggressive doesn't work. The kids are dominating our lives. He got angry with me, said some things that weren't very kind, and now I'm holding on to it. All we do is make our kids a priority. We have a toddler that sleeps in our bed at night. It's ruining our intimacy. I don't like it, but she does. I don't know what to do. And the next thing you know, there's just this drift. It's why Solomon says, the little foxes. It's always the little things, isn't it? That amounts and ruins the greatest things. It's why I love this imagery that you should view your relationship, your marriage, like that of a garden. I mean, just think about a farm, think about gardening. It's one of the greatest examples of commitment over the long haul. So the only way you're gonna get a harvest, a crop, is if you pay attention to what it is that you're doing. You gotta plant seeds, you gotta pull weeds, you gotta water, you gotta put it in the sun. And then even when it's harvest time, you gotta pick the fruit. Because if you don't, animals will get it, the sun will spoil it. So you gotta watch out for these foxes. So my dad lives with us, and he and my son had this really cool thing. They planted a garden in our backyard, and they love to do farming. They say, like, every day, Shaw's like, hey, Grandpa, it's time to go farming. Now, we live in Fort Mill, okay? These are like pots. It's not acres, right? It's like no one's getting on a John Deere here. But there's tomatoes, and there's peppers and beans. We've even got some strawberries in the backyard, and every day they're out there. Well, in the beginning, they noticed that they just figured it was a squirrel or an animal was eating the fruit that was coming up on the buds. So all that they did was they made one small little change. They went and bought some chicken wire, and they simply just put a fence around the crop. And this tomato came from the garden. All because of one inexpensive little thing that they did. And I feel like today as we close, what the text is asking us is that, have you protected your love? That your love, you gotta build a fence around it. Married couples, you want fruit on the vine, you've gotta protect it, and you gotta eat it, and you gotta enjoy it. Single adults, you gotta put a fence around your purity. You gotta put a fence around your standards. Don't ever lower your standard just to be in a relationship so you don't feel lonely on a Friday night. And you gotta be mindful of the foxes that are trying to get in and eat the fruit off of your vine. So here's how I define what a fox is, and maybe this is a good takeaway for today. It's simply any little thing that gnaws at your enjoyment and love for one another. So today as we close, what little things have gotten in the way of your enjoyment for one another? And then sometime today, talk about it and be honest and continue to develop the art. Why don't we stand to our feet today? I'd love to pray over you as we close. And I just want to encourage you, if you're married, if you're dating and your spouse is with you, maybe just grab their hand. Or if it's your kids, grab your kids' hands, whatever that might look like. And I want to take a moment, I just want to pray a prayer of blessing and protection over you this morning as we close today. So Lord, all across this room and those online, God, I pray for our marriages. Marriage is hard, but yet it is the greatest investment that we can ever make. God, marriage ultimately is a very spiritual thing. It is an image of Christ's love for us, his bride. A kind of love that will never leave us or forsake us, a kind of love that will never divorce us. That is to be the commitment level and standard for how a husband and a wife are to love one another. And so God, I pray for these little foxes that are ruining their vineyards. They're young, they're passionate, there's desire, but just small little things have separated and is eating the fruit of their love for each other. God, may they be honest and open. May they put a fence around their garden and protect, Lord, this holy sanctuary called marriage that you've given to them. God, I pray for every single adult. In some ways, I feel like I made it out easy. I mean, being single back in early 2000s was not as hard as it is today. And so God, I acknowledge that. So I pray strength and friendship and protection of every single adult, every teenager, that they put a fence around their purity, that they see this great gift that one day will be enjoyed with someone else, but may they never compromise. May they not walk through the same baggage and hurt that a lot of us have had to walk through. May we pursue you, Jesus, and let you fill up our tank so that when we do find somebody, we are the best version of ourselves to give to that person. God, we give you the glory. We love you. We thank you. It's in your name. Amen.
Amen. Can you help me thank Pastor Nate for a great